Hi, and welcome to Camp Crystal Lake. Welcome to this week's Franchise Friday video. Basically, what I'm going to be doing in Franchise Fridays videos is taking you through one of my favorite horror movie franchises, talking a little bit about the franchise, what I like, what I don't like, really just all personal opinion stuff, and doing a makeup look inspired by the franchise at the same time. If you couldn't tell by my perky 80s ponytails and my Camp Crystal Lake shirt, we're going to be talking about Friday the 13th this week. I have only seen Friday the 13th 1 through 6, I believe, because I was told, and I also heard Jack Black say once that anything after that was awful, so I trust Jack Black completely, and I haven't seen anything past that. Now, typically in these Franchise Friday videos, I'm going to be turning myself into probably the main character, but I figure turning myself into good old Jason is just too easy. I mean, buying a hockey mask and getting a machete and putting on a blue mechanic suit, like, it's just too easy. So instead, I am obviously going to be turning myself into a Camp Crystal Lake counselor and doing a wound in the style of one of my favorite wounds in the entire franchise. So we're going to put Mr. Dude down here because I don't want to get liquid latex on him, and we're going to begin. So, about a year ago, over a year ago now, I started getting into horror movies, really into horror movies, and Netflix only had, I think, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on them, and so I watched those ones, but I had never seen the original movies, which felt kind of silly to me, to be honest, but it was what I had to work with. And then, one day, I was just, hanging out in Walmart, and I like to peruse the Walmart DVD section, and I found this. This is the box set of the first 7 movies, and it was on sale for $20. So I bought it, I watched all the movies, I absolutely fell in love with the franchise, and now I've seen the whole franchise, 1 to 6 at least 1,000 times. I was going to watch number 7, and then I looked at the name, and it's called Jason Takes Manhattan. And I thought that sounded stupid, and then I heard it was stupid, and I just haven't gone through anything after that. So if you have seen the rest of the Jason movies and you like them, please let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll give them a shot. But as of right now, I've only seen 1 through 6. Woo! I forgot how bad liquid latex smells. Now, for many reasons, obviously, the original Friday the 13th is the classic, the most famous, most important one. Now, keep in mind that I didn't see that one first, right? I saw number 4 first, I believe. So, where am I going to do this wound? Kind of wanted to, like... Woo! Liquid latex, man. So, when I watched the first movie, one of the things I think the original movie does really well that maybe some of the later ones don't do well is they give you a decent set of likable characters, Like, a lot of the later ones, I end up not giving a shit about the characters, and I'm just looking forward to Jason, slashing them up. But in that first one, I end up really liking a lot of the characters. The unfortunate thing being that the character that I end up liking the least is our final girl. For those of you who might not know what the final girl means, she's basically, the girl that makes it through in the end. The girl who lives, the girl who essentially defeats the bad guy for that movie. Most of the other sort of horror films of that era, the 70s and the 80s, even the 90s, they usually have a final girl. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Alice in that movie that I can't ever get myself to like. I just think she's the whiniest character. So it's like, as I'm watching this movie, and I watch her friends around her die, Bill, I think the one girl's name is Brenda, I really like her. There's also the Kevin Bacon character, and Tom Savini did a lot of the special effects and the special effects makeup specifically for that movie. And I remember listening to an interview that Tom Savini did, and actually in the shot where the Kevin Bacon character dies, basically what happens is he's laying in bed, the hand comes out from behind the bed, grabs his forehead, and then he gets stabbed through the bed in the neck. Apparently, the little gusher thing that was supposed to, shoot the blood out, because it's just Kevin Bacon standing there with his head up through a thing, and then the neck and the chest is fake. It, broke, and so Tom Savini and his assistant are underneath, blowing into this tube, trying to get the air to, push the blood through, and it ended up looking really good, and that one's a really good death, too. But I went into the first movie completely blind, and I really had no idea what was going to happen in that movie. And so when we get to the end, and Betsy Palmer plays Mrs. Voorhees.
Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, an old friend of the Christies.
And essentially you find out that it's been Mrs. Voorhees committing the murders throughout the movie, and Jason really has nothing to do with it. She's basically just avenging the death of her son because if you don't know the backstory about Jason...
Did you know that a young boy drowned? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
And so she's pretty much stalked the area and commits all these murders. I was completely shocked by that. I had no idea. Somehow I had avoided that spoiler for like my entire life, and I was completely shocked when she turned out to be the killer. Of course, by the end of the movie, she ends up getting her head lobbed off, and there's that, I'm gonna say, iconic scene where Alice, our final girl, is, on the boat in the lake, and then the little boy comes up out of the water and pulls her in, and that is the beginning of Jason essentially being the murderer, even though she doesn't die right there. So now, Jason is all grown up and, stalking the area and somehow has lived this long and is big and tall and angry and immortal and wants to kill people. For some reason, people still keep going back to this area that the locals call Camp Blood. Never understand that logic. I would have to say that I think the second movie is my favorite in the entire franchise. It takes place at a camp for camp counselors that I believe is supposed to be like not the exact Camp Crystal Lake spot, but it's supposed to be like across the lake from it, because the people who sort of run this camp keep saying, don't go to Camp Blood, guys, like it's off limits, blah blah blah. And then of course there's the two teenagers who think they're so cool, so they go over there and they sneak off. Kids, I'll never understand why they just can't do what they're told, And this one is my favorite for many reasons. One, I think out of all of the Friday the 13th movies, this one has the most interesting character as the final girl. And I don't know if that's the actress's doing or if it's the writer's doing, but the final girl, her name is Ginny. She is one of the few final girls within this franchise that strikes me as like a real human. She's funny and sarcastic and cute, and she teases the guy Paul, and she's terrified, rightfully so, when it's time to be terrified, but she's also intelligent. She doesn't just sit there and scream and get murdered, she thinks on her feet and thinks to put on Mrs. Voorhees' sweater and kind of mind fuck Jason. She is my favorite, and I'm very sad that she doesn't really make another appearance after the second movie, because I absolutely love her, and like I said, significantly more than any of the other final girls in this series. Not only that, but there is a character, like a camp counselor, who I don't think he even has any lines, but he is a black man, and I'm pretty sure, that is the only person of color that I can recall seeing in the franchise, other than some issues in the third one, which we'll talk about in a bit. But at least they added a person of color for once. A lot of these 80s horror movies don't. And something else that they have in this movie that is my favorite and is the inspiration for this. There is a character, a camp counselor, in a wheelchair. His name is Mark. I believe he's like a sports guy and probably suffered some kind of spinal cord injury, because that's always how it goes in these things. And he is one of these camp counselors, and essentially how he dies is he ends up with a machete in the face, and after he gets macheted in the face, his chair falls backwards, and you see it go down this flight of stairs, hilariously. I feel like I'm allowed to laugh at this and not feel bad, because I am also in a wheelchair. And it's so silly and so overdramatic just to have his chair bumble down the stairs like that, but it's how it happens. And it makes me laugh. And Mark is a funny, sweet character, and they don't make his disability, his entire story. They let him have other things. They say he's the arm wrestling champion. Let him be cute and be flirty, and he's got a girl that he flirts with. But my question is, how does he get around this camp? This camp that they're staying at it looks to be the most aggressively not wheelchair accessible thing I have ever seen. I really don't understand how this guy, maybe he just has super duper upper arm strength, and so he's able to pop a wheelie to get upstairs and stuff. But I would not be able to do that, and it just looks really hilariously inaccessible. But at least I will give the second movie this. At least they have a character in a wheelchair. Congratulations, I am proud of you. Ooh, and before we move on, another really important thing about the second movie is that the second movie is where we get Jason's kill shack. Now, Jason's kill shack is one of those things that people like to build at conventions and that sort of thing, and charge you to take pictures in, and it's just kind of become this really important symbol image of the Friday the 13th franchise, of Mrs. Voorhees' sort of decayed head on the table with the sweater in front of it and the candles and the dead body on the floor in this wooden shitty shack. And I think it's the only movie that we get to see the kill shack in. But it's just a really cool location, and I really like it. I wish we had more of the kill shack, in the original run. I think in the 2009, I think it was 2009, right? Where they remade the the movie, essentially, and they did it with, like, Jared Padalecki, and it's, like, not the best movie ever, but at least it gives us Jason Killshot, and at least it gives us, like, a moment where he picks up the hockey mask and puts it on, and it's like, yes! Whereas I don't think this franchise gives us that. To be fair, though, I mean, they didn't know that the hockey mask Jason look was gonna be as iconic as it turned out to be. They were just making some horror movies, and whatever happened, you know? I wish I had, like, a big toy machete for this look, or like to stick on my face or something for this look for at the end, but I don't. So I'm just got this big wound and nothing to show what made the wound. I apologize. Didn't plan this out as well as I could have. Now, it is unfortunate that I like the second movie so much, because the third movie is my least favorite of the bunch by far. I just find the third movie, like, painful to watch. There is not a single character in the third movie that I find even moderately interesting, or even, like, that I even moderately care about. There's, like, a gang that's following the kids. So the storyline in the third movie is, like, this guy's family has, like, a lake house that happens to be, I guess, on Crystal Lake. Don't know why you would buy property there, but alright. Essentially, what happens is, you know, they have all these kids, and they go stay up at the lake, and they're all boring and terrible, and I hate all of them. And, you know, they start picking them off one by one. There's this weird gang that sort of chases the kids. I think someone, like, blows up one of their motorcycles or something on the way there, and that's why the gang follows them. But I find the gang to be so uncomfortable because it's, like, all people of color with the exception of, like, one dude. And it's very clearly, like, a little bit racist. Now, one of the most unfortunate things about my dislike for the, third Friday the 13th movie is oh shit, look at all the powder I just got on my shirt. I didn't even think of that. Is that's the one where Jason gets his hockey mask. One of the characters in that movie is supposed to be like an aspiring, I don't know, actor, comedian type thing. So he brings a whole bunch of his props with him to this house, and one of them is a hockey mask. And there's even no scene where we really see Jason pick it up or anything. This kid goes into a barn carrying the mask and the crossbow. I think he even climbs in through the window, and then we see Jason walk out with the mask and the crossbow, and he shoots the girl in the eye. Like, to me, it's just such a... I mean, I guess it's because I'm watching it in hindsight. Like, I'm sure at the time it was, like, decent, but because I'm watching it in hindsight, knowing that mask has become so important to the series, I'm just kind of like, oh man, that's how you introduced the mask. Okay, what do I do here? I don't remember what, like, a wound looks like. And I know it's depressing, but I just like the third movie so much that when I rewatch the franchise, I just skip it. Like, I'll watch the first one and the second one, and then we go straight into the fourth one. Dead people don't have pink lips, but I am leaving my eyebrows, because even in death, y'all can't get me to get rid of these eyebrows. Real talk, I think I would be a terrible camp counselor. Like, I think I would be really bad. Because you have to be, like, really patient in order to be a camp counselor, and I don't have that patience. Like, if I tell you to do something, I expect you to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts, my dude. Like, you do it, you know? I don't know, I just feel like being a camp counselor is some people's calling, and I'm not some people. Okay, you know what? Not as awful as I thought it was going to look from the beginning there. Now, the fourth Friday the 13th movie is what I affectionately think of as a little more basic. I mean, they're all pretty basic. But the fourth one is kind of more like, some kids go to the camp for the summer and then they get killed. Now, there is a family that lives there. The family's name, escapes me at the moment, but Corey Feldman's character is a member of this family, and Corey Feldman plays a character named Tommy. And Tommy ends up being a very important piece of this franchise because this is the only time Corey Feldman plays him, but they keep the character of Tommy through the next couple of movies. And at the end of this fourth movie, Tommy, you know, in sort of an act of self-defense and protecting his sister, he ends up killing Jason. And the act of, you know, killing someone, whether he's, you know, a crazy murderer or not, sort of stays with Tommy throughout the rest of his life, from what it looks like in the rest of the movies. Now, something that I have a love-hate relationship with this franchise is that once we get to that fourth one, you know, the fourth, fifth, and sixth all kind of go together. It's like very much so a continuous storyline. Now, as much as I think that's cool, and I do appreciate that, I kind of wish that I could just, you know, they were just like standalone movies, like some kids go to a camp and then die. Alright, here's the next movie. Some kids go to a camp and then die. Like, if I'm gonna watch the fourth one, I feel obligated to watch 5 and 6 as well, because they do all go together, whereas I feel like I can watch the first one by itself, or even the second one by itself. So all I'm doing is trying to add some, like, purple-y shadow. Maybe some bruising, like, around it. So like I said, Tommy's a character that they continue throughout, like, the rest of the series. So after he's, you know, murdered Jason, the fifth movie, I believe, takes place sort of at, like, a halfway house where he's staying. And the movie essentially starts with one of the guys who's at the halfway house gets essentially straight up murdered by one of the other guys because he pissed him off, pretty much. And after that happens, then there starts being, you know, murders within the house. Tommy ends up being one of the sort of saving defenders in the end, again. And he ends up saving this woman and this little kid from being murdered. And the spoiler in this movie is essentially that there's no Jason in this one. The Jason character is actually one of the police officers who showed up to that first boy's murder, and he was the unknown father of that kid who was murdered. I guess in a way that one kind of stands alone by itself as well. I did watch that one. It was one of the first ones that I watched, and I remember really enjoying it, even though I didn't know anything else about the franchise. And I would actually watch that one again. That would be one of the ones I would recommend to somebody who is, like, maybe new to the franchise to watch. Like, I'd be like, I'd give a gold star to the second one and maybe a gold star to the fifth one. And I'm gonna be honest with you, by the time we get to the sixth one, like, I just find that the sixth one is, like, it doesn't catch my attention. Like, it's a decent storyline and it's alright, but I just don't really find it that interesting. It's not one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen. And I think it's because it starts out stupid. Like, in order to try to, like, rid himself of the sort of ghost of Jason that haunts him, Tommy goes to where Jason is buried and tries to, like, cremate his body pretty much, but then there's, like, a burst of lightning that resurrects him. It's a whole thing. But because there's been so long since there was a murder at Camp Crystal Lake, the locals have decided to reopen the camp there, and they now call it, I think it was Camp Forest Green, right? Now Jason is resurrected, so the murders are going to start all over again, and it's Tommy, and he's trying to tell people, you know, don't go back to the lake, Jason's alive, and la 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 la, that sort of thing, you know? Wait, I feel like I've seen another one of these movies. Hold on. Let me look at my box set again. I lied. I've seen parts 1 through 7. I haven't seen part 8. Part 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan. Part 7 is the one she's got like telekinetic powers. She's like, I totally forgot about that. Look, I even wrote down, like, notes and everything for this video, and I totally forgot about the last movie. So, the last one that I actually have seen, you know, she can, like, move shit with her mind. And that's how she ends up, I remember now, because that's how she ends up killing Jason, is she's got those, like, psychic powers, and she can, like, straight up murder him. And I remember that when that movie is over, like, she's killed Jason, like, that's it. And I was like, this is a great way to end the franchise, we're done now. And then after that, I was like, Jason Takes Manhattan, well, that sounds stupid, and then I never watched another one. Telekinetic powers, I forgot about that. That's so sick! Could you imagine, like, oh man, just hanging out, I killed the dude who haunts Camp Crystal Lake with my fucking psychic powers. I need a little bit of scab blood, don't you think? We're almost done, I swear. So overall, I think the Friday the 13th franchise is one of my favorites of these sort of classic slasher franchises. Mainly, A, because it doesn't really quite take itself too seriously. Like, you end up rooting for Jason in more of these movies than not, because some of these characters are so fucking dumb. But also I like it because it gives us enough backstory without over-explaining itself. I really hate it when horror movies over-explain themselves. From the movies that I've seen, I still don't understand how Jason is, you know, immortal or superhuman or whatever the hell he is. But I really don't feel like I have to know, because it's cool the way it is. And that's really all that matters to me, is that it's cool. I also love the idea of a group of stupid teenagers consistently going to a place that's called Camp Blood and being like, well, this seems like a good place to hang out. Because even when I was a teenager, you know, my classmates would make stupid-ass decisions. And I'd be like, why are you doing that? That's a stupid-ass decision. And they'd be like, YOLO. And I'd be like, yeah, well, YOLO. You know, you're not going to live very long if you keep doing stupid-ass things like that. And I just generally, as a general Abbey rule, am not a humongous fan of youths. So when youths do stupid things and have to pay a consequence, I'm like, alright, I'm here for that. And you know what? I think that's going to be the end. I think I've rambled on enough about my thoughts on this franchise and how much I like it. I think this is how I would look roughly if I got axed in the face. Again, I wish I had an axe or a machete or something, but I just don't. And the more I think about it, the more I think this is kind of like a cute actual Halloween costume. Like, I wish I had bushier hair. If I was doing this as like a real costume, I would like do something to frizz my hair, because to me frizzy hair is so 80s. So I'd frizz my hair, put it in pigtails because that's so camp counselor, and wear my little, you know, Camp Crystal Lake shirt, have a killer summer, and I would look like this for the whole Halloween day, you know? What do you think, Jason? Huh? What do you think? I think it turned out pretty well, if I do say so myself. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and if you want to see more videos like this, and just more spoopy videos in general, because these are my favorite kind of content to make. I literally look forward to it all year, and I start them in the beginning of summer, because that's how excited I am. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!